Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast. Hey there, Karma Crew. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage. If you're listening today, what that tells me about you is you're someone who's ready to move beyond surface level healing and quick fixes. You want to understand the deeper, sometimes unseen forces like karmic patterns, ancestral wounds, and your unique cosmic blueprint that has been shaping your story. You might be curious about tools and modalities that go beyond just talking about trauma to actually embodying your healing and stepping fully into your power and purpose. In this episode, my guest, Danie Muniz, and I will be diving into some truly transformational territory. Danie is an inner work alchemist, intuitive astrologer, and Akashic Records Practitioner who's been helping soul-driven women release the inner pressure and self-doubt that keeps them stuck. She's here to share how astrology and Akashic Records can help you access your soul's guidance system and rewrite the narrative of your life. So, if you're ready to step out of the backseat of your life and into the front seat of consciousness, it's time to rip off the bandage. Let's dive in. We are welcoming Danie Muniz to the show today. Hello.
Hello, hello.
I'm so happy to have you on today. Super excited to talk about Akashic Records. And like I was kind of telling you, have never really thought of it as a healing modality. So super excited to talk about that part. But let's just start by telling the people that are listening about yourself.
Yeah, so I am Danie C Muniz. I like to call myself an inner work alchemist, intuitive astrologer, and Akashic Records Practitioner. And so I like to work in the realms of spirituality and consciousness and helping people release their past traumas, generational and ancestral paradigms, fears, things of that, the things that are really holding you back from fulfilling your soul's mission. Outside of the work that I do, though, I do live with my love, my soulmate, in Austin, Texas. And if you're watching this on video, you can probably see the pug in the back. That's handsome Jake. He hangs out there most days. And we love to go on walks together. And he loves to check his tree mail. So all the trees, there's tree mail there for him that he has to go sniff. So we go and spend some time getting his tree mail.
That's funny. I had a pug and I have a pug mix right now. So I love
Oh, what is
pugs.
it mixed with? What's your
I
pug
have
mixed with?
no idea. A lot of people
Oh,
think he looks like a puggle,
okay.
but I'm kind of thinking maybe Chihuahua or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm not sure. But
wow.
he's 13, but he's my sweet old man. I love him. I love pugs. I just love pugs.
They're the cutest.
He's totally welcome today.
Oh, thank you.
So, can you share your journey from being a national TV contestant to becoming an inner work alchemist and Akashic Records practitioner?
Yeah, so I auditioned for American Idol and The Voice. So American Idol, it was season 2 of American Idol, and then I auditioned again season 4. And at the time, I hadn't really stepped into what I would say my personal growth journey, my learning about myself. I was nowhere near the spiritual realm. I was definitely more on the religious track, so to speak. And I have been a singer from the time I was 5 years old. My parents came to, like, I don't know, probably like a kindergarten show or whatever, and here I am in the middle of the stage with all of my classmates behind me stepping up to the mic to sing, and my parents were like, what the heck is going on? And that really is where I started to express myself in a different way. And so music became a really strong part of my life growing up. I was in choir. I actually danced professionally and competed professionally for pretty much all through my teenage years. And my dad had gotten into a car accident when I was a freshman and in high school. And so when that happened, our whole life got kind of flipped upside down. He had broken both of his arms and was unable to work for probably about 9 months or so. And they
Mm.
had just bought a house. So there's a whole bunch of financial debt that my parents had. And so I got pulled out of like everything and anything that I was doing, as extracurricular, right? Like type
Yeah.
activities, because they just couldn't simply afford it anymore. And so it kind of stopped my music, my show work, so to speak, and kind of put a little bit of a damper on things for me. And so when I auditioned for American Idol, it took a whole lot for me to come back to actually step into that. And it was the beginnings of me really starting to learn more about my own inner like confidence, learning about my intuition, learning to trust myself again, because I really felt like all of that got ripped out from under me. And so
Mhm.
here I am, going, traveling. I lived in California at the time, so it wasn't too far. We were lucky that we had auditions pretty close, but it's a long journey. If anybody has ever done it, if the behind the scenes, they are a lot different than what you see on camera. It's
Yeah.
brutal. It is brutal. It is
Wow.
like 12-hour days, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, auditioning, and you're singing in front of producers, of executives, and you're just singing, and so it's like four people, it's like go, go, go. And then it's like, okay, you passed, go on to the next one. And it's like you repeat. And so it was like six, groupings of having to sing in front of these different executives before we even could get to sing in front of, our host. And so it was it was a lot for me. I learned a lot about myself, and if that was something that I actually really wanted to do. And so I went back, when The Voice came out a few years later, and went for that audition. And at that audition, I was sitting there and I didn't make it past the second cut. So there was a first cut and then there was a second cut. They held it a little bit differently than American Idol. They weren't as big at the time. And I remember getting cut that second time, crying my little heart out, and getting into the car, my boyfriend at the time, and he wasn't very helpful. And i
Mm.
just i just cried, and I was like, I'm done, I'm not singing anymore. And I pretty much gave it up at that point. And I didn't know that that would be probably the last time that I really sang for myself and not just for others. And let me explain what I mean by that. I was still singing in church. I was very involved in the Catholic Church at the time. I was a cantor, the person that sings, over baptisms and weddings and funerals and your Sunday masses. And so I was still singing in that context, but it was just simply singing to sing. It
Mm.
wasn't heartfelt. It didn't mean anything to me. And it was simply things that had already been created. I mean, these words had been sung for hundreds of years, and here, thousands of years in some cases. And here I was, just singing just to sing. And it wasn't until I continued on and I took a class. I was in corporate, and I took a class on the 7 habits of highly effective people. And that course, I only went because there was a planner, and I'm an organizer and I love to organize. And so I was like, I'm going to get a planner, and I'm so excited. But in that course, they had us write a mission statement. And that mission statement was our personal mission. This was the first time I had ever considered that that was even a thing. Like, I know businesses have mission statements, companies, right, have business statements, but I could have my own personal mission statement. That was beyond what I was thinking. I was like, well, what is my mission? What am I here to do? And although I went for a planner, I completely changed the trajectory once again and decided to figure out what my soul's mission was. And I started doing a lot of personal development, because that's, I think, anybody who's been on that journey, on the healing journey, that's where we all begin. We all
Yeah.
begin in learning about ourselves in some way, shape, or form. And so then all of this stuff started coming up, it was like, I wanted to sing and I wanted to do all these things. And why was I not doing that? And so a lot of that started to come up for me. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the tools and the resources. And so I just went like searching and searching and searching and started to learn all of these different modalities, starting with the mind. The mind is probably one of the most important things that we can work on as
Yeah.
individuals, is understanding our mind, how we're framing things, our perspective on things, how we're thinking about things. And I was not somebody who did this. I just kind of followed along, went along with the crowd and did what everybody else did. I didn't think for myself in many, many ways up until that point. And I was already in my 30s at this point. Had just passed my Saturn return. So if those of you know about astrology, I passed my Saturn return and things had gotten so challenging and so difficult. It was like a pressure cooker. And I had to do something different. And so it's exactly what I did. I left corporate. I decided to go out on my own. I had trained under Bob Proctor at this time and learned a lot about the mind and started stepping into spirituality. I actually left the Catholic Church, stopped singing. Um, in that context, but started writing my own songs and creating my own music, and just
Mm.
went on this whole other path and just started learning about intuition, about metaphysics. I ended up getting my degree a bachelor's in metaphysical science, starting to understand what was beyond what was being shown to us, and allowed me to tune back into my intuition and being able to sense things as an empath that I had blocked because it was
Mm.
overwhelming and I didn't understand it. But then to have some context around it, to have some words around it. And I knew that, if somebody had been there for me in my earlier 20s, that could have showed me a couple of things, maybe inspired me in some way, or showed me a different path, even. I'm pretty sure I would have taken some different paths, although I don't regret the path that I've been on. I believe that was my path from the beginning,
Yeah.
because I had to go through all of that to understand, to get to the point where I am today. I just wish that there would have been somebody there to guide me or assist me. And that's exactly why I decided to leave. I had a great corporate job. I loved my job. I was in training and development. I absolutely loved what I did. I made really good money doing it, but my heart was in really helping individuals overcome not only their mindset, but more than just their mindset, as I started learning all of these things. And so
Mm.
it's been a journey. I wouldn't change anything, even the challenges that I've been through, the obstacles that I have overcome. But to get to this point now that I can confidently say, like, I get to write my own music and express myself in that creative way, and I get to support others on their healing journeys so they can clear out what's in their way, so that they can, overcome and really truly fulfill their soul's mission. That's
Yeah.
just at the heart of what I do.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I mean, I'm a little jealous that you had got your transformation about at 30 because it took me till 40, and it usually does
Oh,
take most people longer. So,
it does.
and then just using, what you went through to help others. I mean, that's really what our purpose is to
Absolutely.
help others along the way, maybe get there a little faster than we did. You did
Absolutely.
mention Saturn's return, and I don't know what that is. So, can you explain that?
Absolutely. So in astrology, there are, every planet has what's called a return. Our solar return is our birthday, right? The sun is in a place at the time that we're born. And then when it comes back to that same place, that's a solar return. That's our birthday. So Mercury has a return, Pluto has a return, Saturn has a return, and each one carries its own distinct energy. Like the sun is our consciousness. So the sun is like, when it returns, it kind of gives us a little forecast of like what our next year will be like where we might be thinking, where our not necessarily, like, I don't like to look at it as predictive astrology, although there is that way of working with astrology. I like to look at it more as, okay, where is my focus at? And it gives me that confirmation of, yep, that's the path I'm on. That's where I'm headed. And so Saturn, he comes around every 29 years. So he runs a lot slower. And whenever Saturn makes his return, we usually have two in our lifetime. One that's around 29, 30 in that realm. And then the other one when we get to like 59, 60. And you can see this when, as we get older in age, there's certain things that happen that push us into these different changing our lives completely, right? When we get
Yeah.
to that 60 realm, I see a lot of people making some really big changes. And I was like, interesting. That's their second Saturn return. And so if we look at the ideas of Saturn, Saturn rules over our path, what we're here to do, and really having that discipline to stay on the path. He shows us our boundaries and our limitations. And so we get to push past them if we choose, or they might come down on us, which is what generally happens in a Saturn return. If you are not on your path, if you are not fulfilling, so to speak, the things that your soul's here to complete, to do, to understand, to clear, then Saturn's going to make things really challenging, which is exactly what happened for me. My path, I was not singing. I was very frustrated. I was in an abusive relationship and I was about to get married. And it was just, that was not my path. And so everything just came crushing down on me, making it very, very hard for me to actually take any positive changes
Mm-hmm.
forward. I felt like I was sinking, and
Yeah.
I had to get out in some way. And I made that decision to not get married, which is a very big decision for me. I mean, we were 2 weeks from getting married. So not getting married changed again, like moved things for me. But that Saturn return, that energy had just been coming and coming and coming. And so by a couple of years after that had kind of come to an end, it was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't go through with this wedding. I can't go through with this life. I'm doing something different. I'm coming out. And so a Saturn return, definitely when it comes around, it can flip things upside down for you. And so they often say there's like the singers who passed away, sadly a lot of them to either drugs or some type of overdoses in some ways, that die at 29.
Yeah.
And that is the pressure that they're feeling, potentially, I would think, at
Wow.
that time of whatever it is that's coming down on them. So Saturn's a big one. It's one of the biggest. Uranus is another one, but they happen in cycles. And so that's why one of the reasons why I love to look at astrology, not to tell me what I should be doing or what I shouldn't be doing, but to understand what the current might be, right? So I can know how to navigate. I like to be informed, right? So I
Yeah.
want to know, what am I going to be navigating through, and a Saturn return reading can actually help you understand kind of what might be, where the pressure might be coming in, and how to navigate that, for sure.
Interesting. Interesting. I think I had kind of a push around 30, but I decided to push back. And yeah. And so I lasted about 10 more years till I
Wow.
really literally felt like I was dying. Like
Yeah.
I was so sick,
Yeah.
so sick. And there was like absolutely nothing wrong with me. They couldn't find anything wrong with me.
Yeah.
Had all the tests and everything. The doctor's like, I've run out of things. I don't even know what's going on with you. Take these pills, because we don't know.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense. But yeah, I pushed through. I pushed Saturn for 10 years.
A lot of people do. That's why we
And
see, I don't want to see this, but I see this is marriages come to an end in their 40s, because there's something, like you said, I'm pushing, nope, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this,
yeah,
because of whatever upbringing, whatever societal expectations and
yeah,
conditioning we've had, that we've got to
yep,
stick this through.
yep,
And we do. And then it happens. The kids are out of the house, and it's like, nope, it's my turn now. And that's something that has been building, for
yeah,
years. So
yeah. I literally felt if I didn't leave, I was gonna die. That's what
yeah,
it felt like. Exactly. Yeah.
100%.
So, for listeners that are unfamiliar with Akashic Records, can you explain what that is and how that can support healing and future success?
Absolutely. So I love to talk about the Akashic Records. Akashic Records was it's kind of like that thing where you don't know anything about it, and then all of a sudden somebody says something and then it's like everywhere. That's at least how it happened for me. Somebody told me, and I was very new in the spiritual world, and they're like, you're a record keeper, I think is what she called me, a record
Mm,
keeper. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And she's like, you need to look up Akashic Records. And I was like, okay, I don't have no idea what you're talking about, but let me go look. And so I started like doing all kinds of research and trying to figure out what the Akashic Records were. And so the way that I can best describe it with my relationship to the Akashic Records is to say that it's our soul's energetic signature. It's maybe considered a library in some sorts, although I don't necessarily feel it that way, but it's a library of information from your soul's inception. So every thought, deed, action that your soul has ever taken from the past, the present, and into the future, giving us an idea, a potential of the possibilities if we continue on this particular timeline. And so having this information allows you to understand things that your soul has maybe been through in the past, and so that we can heal that. Now, this is mind your own karma here. So, if we look at the idea of karma, karma can be created right in the present, in the things that we're doing now, and it can also have been created in the past. And so, one of the things that the Akashic Records can do is to go into the past and look at some of those things that we may have done, the interactions we may have participated in that has created this karma that we have that is now maybe playing out in this lifetime. So it might not have been resolved in that previous lifetime, or our soul just might be reliving that and trying to do that in this lifetime, where it
mm,
doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know how to resolve that. If we
yeah.
talk about relationships, we might have relationships with people that we've had in the past in other lifetimes. The Akashic Records can give us that information. A lot of times people ask me, is this a karmic relationship, or did I know this person in a past life? And there sometimes yes, and sometimes no. It's just because you are having a challenge with somebody in this lifetime doesn't necessarily mean it's from a past situation, but there is oftentimes a connection in some way, shape, or form. And so, from the healing perspective, when we dive into the Akashic Records and we start to receive that information. And for me, I mean, if we're talking about my soul's inception, like anything, everything my soul's ever been through, that's a whole lot of information, which is
Yeah.
why people often see it as like a library of some sort. For me, I'm like, okay, when we go in, we're going in for something specific. So if we want to
Mm,
look at a particular relationship or a particular energy frequency, like let's say somebody struggling with confidence, right? They want to show up more confidently in what they're doing, whether that's in business or in a career. And we can go back and look, okay, let's look at these lifetimes and where in our past this idea of confidence may have been a challenge for us. So it's not just, oh, as a child, my parents, we had this relationship and they didn't really teach me about confidence, or I lost my confidence because of this experience. That is an incident that we've had in this lifetime. However, our soul may have had similar experiences, or it's something different that caused us to lose our confidence potentially in other lifetimes. Now, on the flip side of that, in which I really love and a lot of people don't talk about, is we can also bring things forward. So, I had a client who was struggling with speaking, and she wanted to be able to speak more and to present more, so that she could grow her business. But she was challenged with this idea of speaking. And so we worked on different things around her speaking. And then I was like, I bet you we have a lifetime we can go visit. And so we opened her Akashic Records and we went to a specific lifetime where she had been an amazing speaker. And come to find out, not only was she a speaker, but she was also a leader, something she had also been struggling with, but really couldn't, like, didn't want to step into that role. We uncovered this lifetime. I had her take a look at this lifetime and understand the things that it took for her to be this speaker and to bring that energy forward into this lifetime so that she could step onto stages really confidently as a speaker and then step into being a leader, which is something she had really not wanted to do. So not only can we go and use the Akashic records to access information to, heal some of those karmic relationships or understand soul contracts or past woundings, or even things that are in our ancestral lineages, right? Not only can we do that, but we can also bring those strengths and those powers that we've had in the past into the present.
So maybe some behavioral patterns that we may not even recognize that we're doing could come from past lives.
100%. You know how sometimes there's things you're like, I don't know why, but I struggle with this thing.
Hmm.
That could be from a past life where you struggled with that thing or you had, some type of situation with whatever that is.
Yeah, so interesting.
I
Um,
know.
and you have degrees in psychology and metaphysical physical science. So how
I do.
do those degrees influence your work?
So I'm a student of people. I love people. So even though when I went to school, so when I went to college, I was on the music path, right? I was going towards music. Music was something I wanted to do and also teaching. So there was this love of teaching and this love of music. And I at the time, there was a lot going on in California in schooling at the time that I realized that wasn't something that I wanted to do. But I said, I've already have a lot of these classes done. And I looked and I was like, what else do I need to do, to complete my major and psychology? And I was like, okay, I hadn't really taken a psychology 101 class. I did. I had taken a psychology 101. It was interesting, but I was still like, yeah, not my thing. So I was like, well, let me go take some of these classes. So over the summer, I took some psychology classes. I was blown away. I was like, wait, this is what psychology is. And so I have always loved to learn about people. Like I love to watch reality shows, not because, they're just this drama,
Drama,
but
yeah.
the way that people are interacting. Like I'm watching all of the seasons of Survivor right now, from season one all the way. I think
Oh,
we're about
wow.
halfway through, and just understanding how people, like, why do they do the things they do? Why do they choose to lie to this person, or why do they choose to join this alliance, or why are they choosing the different things that they're choosing? And it's just always fascinated me. And so going through psychology and learning like about the ego, about social conditioning, right? About how we frame things and how that is formed as a child. And so a lot of the work that I do and blessed to do is to help people work with their inner child. If I did not have that base in psychology of understanding, and my focus was in childhood development, I wanted to understand that forming, those creative, those imprinting years as a
Mm,
child. And that helps me now in understanding why we chose certain things or why we may have took on certain things as children in those imprinting years. And then when I started exploring metaphysics, right, I found the University of Sedona, and they were offering a degree in learning about metaphysics and to be able to get a bachelor's. And I was like, okay, yes, I
wow.
want to learn more about these, because I didn't have context. I didn't have wording for all of the stuff that I was experiencing and was opening myself up to. And I just wanted to understand it more, because I started to understand how we are forming things within our mind and perspectives that we are taking, expectations that we have, and how that's all that conditioning comes into play. But then there was this whole other world, that we don't know, we don't quite see, or we don't understand. And I wanted to understand it, right? And how that really fit into play here from the and more of the energetic, because I started to see mindset is one part
Yeah.
of the healing. Like we can reframe all day, but then there's the energetic component, looking at past lives, looking at that soul connection that we also want to look at. And then nowadays, I do a lot of work in somatic breath work where we're now releasing on the body. So we're releasing and shifting things on the mental level, on the in the physical body and on the energetic level as well, so that we're really moving through things, in all aspects of the physical and emotional self.
Yeah, I really love how somatics is really becoming more mainstream and how people are integrating it in what they're doing because it's been the
100%.
missing piece for a long time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would absolutely agree. I didn't realize how big of a component it was until I started doing my own like breath works. And I was like, wait, because it to me, like breath work was just breath work. I didn't really think of it as a spiritual experience. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really think of it as a healing experience.
Mm,
And when I started being able to tap into past lives in a somatic breath work, I was like, oh, this is something else. Like this is something that I really do need to look more into. And I actually went in and got trained to do it because I was like, wait, this is like you said, the missing piece that we all have. I wish everybody would do, and I wish everybody would try at least to explore it because it makes a big difference in the
yeah.
healing process. I had a client the other day who she's been having this hip problem and she just wasn't able to sit well with it not hurting her when she sat. We did a breath work release, and like she sat up right away and was like in like cross-legged sitting there on her chair, like fully felt like free and no pain. And she was like, I can't believe I'm sitting like this right now. And I was like, that's what happens when we release it on the physical level as well. So it was really powerful.
Do you see that some people's chronic body pain comes from something that happened in a past life?
100%. 100%. So, whenever we are, one of the things that I always tell my clients up front is like, when we're releasing, I want you to notice all the shifts that are happening because it's really easy to notice the mental shifts. We're so
Mm-hmm.
used to mental shifts, right? I worked a lot in NLP and hypnotherapy for a long time before I really started really bringing in more of this energetic and physical work. And so, people, it's really easy for people to shift on the mind. I think we all know how to do that. But when we start to shift in the energetic realm and in the physical realm, it's completely different. People who have had back pain. There was a lady, a real estate agent I was working with the other day who had back pain, and her father is on his last days, and so
Mm,
she's just carrying a lot. She's carrying all of that weight on her back, and so one of the things that I like to work on first with somebody is really helping them feel safe in their body, having them feel safe in exploring their inner world. Because a lot of us, I mean, you probably know just as much as I do. We don't know what to expect. And so it can be a little
yeah.
nerve wracking. And
Yeah.
so it's the first thing that I'm like, okay, let's build some really positive experiences with working with our body and working with our inner world, so that we can get into the other stuff, right? Because if we can't feel safe here, how are we going to feel safe exploring a past life, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
dive into some deeper trauma, maybe potentially experiences that someone might go through. And so we did that. We started just doing some breathing, just helping her start to feel safe and starting to explore her inner world. And she was like, I don't feel the back pain anymore. And I was like, she was able to just start to release it already. And she came back just the other day and was like, I feel like the more I do this, the less it'll be. And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've only had a few sessions and she's just starting to already feel it. Like that's the beauty is we have to notice. One of the first things that I believe in healing is awareness. And whether that is awareness of something is off or something's not working properly, or what's awareness in what our body is trying to tell us or what our body has been telling us for years probably, but we just think, oh, that's just a crick in my shoulder, or I probably slept wrong and that's why my neck is hurting.
Mm-hmm.
It might not just be that. It might be
Yeah.
something else that you've been carrying forever that is ready. And I believe that if it's come into our awareness, it is ready to shift. It is
Yes.
ready. We're ready to have some type of release with it or shift in our experience around it. Because I don't know about you, Melissa, but I don't believe we ever forget anything. I really truly don't believe that. I believe we can shift the energy around something so that it's not painful or hurting or disempowering to us in any way. In fact, it actually can become empowering, or it can become something that we can talk about, right? Like I know my
Yeah.
dad and I have a very, very intense soul contract that he decided to be the villain in my life this year, or this lifetime. And you know what? At first, I thought that was the worst thing ever. Like, how could you do that? And now I find it to be one of the most beautiful things ever,
Mm.
because had he not been the villain that he was in the way that he was, I could not be the independent woman that I am now.
Yeah.
I never would have been able to come to that place had he not played his part, so to
Right.
speak. And
Yeah.
so, for me, it's a beautiful thing now. It wasn't then, but it is definitely, something really beautiful now.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I got into my somatic practice was because I also have done ultrasound for 35 years. And
Ah,
I see patients over and over and over coming in for the same test, and
yeah.
it's still negative, and it's still negative. And I'm like, these people aren't crazy.
Nope.
They are feeling pain, and
Yep.
they can point right to it. Like,
Yep.
they're not
Yep.
crazy. Something's going on. What's missing? I was very left-brained and, being in the medical field for so long. And then through my healing journey, kind of, came across somatics, and I was like, that's the missing piece. That's the
Yep.
missing piece. And so it's so hard because I see patients and I really can't say much
Yeah.
in my professional setting, but I want to just
Yeah.
say, you need to look at this. Like you need to, maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. But
I
I
I was
became
gonna
one of those patients. I became one of those patients. So I was like kind of forced to take that journey and figure out what the missing piece was. And it took a
I
while,
would
but
Yeah, I would say I'm really hopeful because, from let's go back to astrology really quick. From an astrology standpoint, Saturn, the planet we talked about earlier, is moving through the zodiac sign of Pisces. And Saturn usually goes about 2.5 years, depending on its retrograde. And in those 2.5 years, one of the things that he does govern is government and foundations, and corporations. And so him being in Pisces means to me, in the way that I've interpreted this, is that being that structure, that foundation to pieces, is Pisces being the most spiritual sign out of all the signs. It's almost as if there's like this transcendence, right? It's gone through all the zodiac signs. It's the last zodiac sign. It's got all this knowledge and information, and it's ready to transcend into the 5D, into the next realm, so to speak. And so Saturn being there, it's kind of a little bit of a conflict, right? Because it's very traditional, you know, traditional thinking, tried and true kind of idea. And Pisces being like, but there's so much more. There's love and
yeah,
light. And so these two kind of coming together, I feel as if our corporations, in particular healthcare, that there's going to be this transition, and we can already kind of start to see it. And of course, government's going to get involved because that's what happens where things start to get governed, right? But I feel like these alternative holistic approaches to healing the body are starting to infiltrate these systems. And I believe that in these next few years, we're going to see them start to incorporate more. I mean, I already, you know, you can watch TV, you can watch a movie these days where the word chakra gets dropped. Everybody and their mother talks about manifesting. These are terms that people did not talk about
yeah,
10 years ago, even. And here we are in our mainstream media, right? In our way that we get information. You see it all across social media platforms. And so I feel like there are these alternative realms of healing that are going to start infiltrating even more so over the next few years while Saturn does move through Pisces. So
Oh, I
I'm
hope
very
so.
hopeful
Yeah, I
that
hope
that
so.
is coming through, where people will say, okay, maybe I don't need it. If the x-ray is not showing anything, maybe I need to go look at, a different type of healing to get rid of this pain. So
Yeah.
that is my hope.
Yeah, and I had a physician on the beginning of this season when I switched to this healing on this healing journey, and he was a gastroenterologist, but he quickly realized that he had a lot of patients that he could not figure out were, in horrible state, and he could not figure out
Yeah.
what was wrong with them.
Wow.
And he sent one to a psychologist that he knew, and he saw that psychologist a few months later, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, how's that patient?" She's like, "Oh, she's fine." Like, and he's like, "Wait, what? Like, what am I missing here?" So we need more
Yeah.
doctors like that that
Yes, who are
recognize that
open.
I can't always, help someone in what my expertise is. So I need to
Yes.
have these other people kind of out there to, explore a little bit more in a different area. So I wish and
Yeah.
I hope that more medical professionals start moving in that direction and realizing that they're not the end all, um, always. And, these
Yeah.
patients that they can't help, and you're just kind of like, okay, sorry, here's a pill.
Yeah.
That's not the way we should be treating people. The whole body,
No.
spirit, soul, everything needs to be treated. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think too, one of the things that when I realized this about doctors is their main goal is to help the body get into a place where it can heal itself, right? When I learned that we can heal ourselves, our bodies can heal itself, but doctors, just like if you have a broken leg, right? They're going to put it into a place so that it can heal itself. The doctor isn't healing it, right? The medicine isn't healing it, it's putting the body in a place that it can heal. And I think when, our physicians, our doctors, when they can remember that,
Yeah.
that they might be able to open that up or open their minds and their ideas up to these other ways that the body can be put into that state so that it can heal. That
And
would be,
once
again,
people can grasp that they have that
that
power,
power.
and they also have the last say, I have so many patients that are like, I'm like, well, you don't have to have this test. And they're like, well, yes, I do. My doctor, because they're like questioning me. And I'm like, maybe you need to go back and ask your doctor these questions. And they don't realize that they can say no, that
Yeah.
they have the power to say no. They have the power to look at something else and see a different doctor or somebody like you, or,
Yeah.
they have that power. But
Yep.
yeah, and when you realize that you can heal yourself, that is huge.
Huge. Yeah.
So
Huge.
huge. So you talk about the sacred CEO framework. What
Mhm.
is that? And how does it help soul-driven women entrepreneurs step into their power?
Yeah. So the Sacred CEO framework is built off this idea that we, as how do I say this? As entrepreneurs, we are given strategy, right? So those of you that are in that space, like, we're given strategy and we seek strategy, right? What's the strategy to overcome the algorithm on the social media platforms? What's the email strategy, right? What's the sales strategy? There's all these strategies that we are given. And of course, we all want to implement those strategies, but there's so much more to being a entrepreneur, being somebody who owns their own business than just strategy, because I can give you strategy all day, but if your soul is not ready to do that strategy because your soul is scared of being visible or doesn't have the confidence or don't think they know enough or doesn't feel worthy, right, of being able to step into that place, you're not going to implement that strategy no matter how much a coach gives that to you or how many classes you take. If you do not embody that within yourself, you're not going to implement it. I see it over and over again. So with Sacred CEO, we're not doing more. We're actually doing less. We
Mhm.
are becoming rooted in who we are. in understanding ourselves, which is where, for me, astrology comes in, Akashic Records comes in, because I want to know, like, first off, my astrology kind of tells me what my strengths are. Okay, if I'm really good, like if I see somebody who's like, I don't know what to do, how to attract more people into my business, I'm like, okay, great. Let's look at your chart and see what your best way of doing that. Because for some people coming on podcasts like this is their absolute best way, because they're so good at speaking and telling stories and sharing what they do. But then there's others of us who that is not our strength, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all about writing. So they might be doing blogs or writing a book, right? Something where they're able, like Substacks. A lot of people have Substacks these days, and those are those people that love to write. I am not
Yeah.
somebody that loves to write. So
Either.
that is not my strategy at all. I'm like, if you can chat GPT this, please, because I
Yeah.
can't. It's not me. Put me on video, put me on an interview, an audio, I'm good to go. But you put me behind a computer to type, no thank you. So that, like, looking at that strength, okay, great, so now I know what that strength is. That right there has already shifted people into like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that,
Mm,
I'm going to do this. But then there's still that little component of visibility. Well, I don't know if people are going to like what I have to say. What if I go on these podcasts and it doesn't, people don't resonate with me, or I'm scared, or like all of those things, right, start to come up. And so that's where we go into like the Akashic Records and we look at, okay, like where did you have this strength in a past life, or what is blocking this strength from an experience or a situation that you've encountered, whether in this lifetime or in another lifetime, that we need to clear. And so I love to do that inner work. And so I get to guide people in the Sacred CEO framework of really doing the inner work so that they can implement the strategy. Because again, I'll say this until the cows come home, you can learn all the strategy you want, but implementing it, actually taking the steps to do it, that right there is the key piece. If you're not doing the strategy, because the strategies work, I won't deny that the strategies absolutely work if you implement them. And
mm.
so my intention is for us to get into the energetics of our business, the energetics of ourselves, what's blocking that. Let's work with our business as an entity, as an aspect of ourselves, because that's what our business is. It's part of us. It is not separate from us. It is part of us. And so we have to treat that entity just like we would treat anything else, asking it questions. What does it want to do? What's the next steps it wants to take? What's blocking it from its visibility, right? So not only ourselves, but now also looking at our business as an entity as well. So we get to dive into all of that inner resistance that we might have, and really connect with who we are and how we choose to show up, moving forward.
So when you find something in a past life that might be, causing a stumbling block for where you want to be, and clearing that, is it that kind of dialogue that you were just talking about? Like, do you dialogue with that
Oh yeah.
past part of you? Is that what you're doing
Absolutely.
to clear it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Okay.
there's like with if you've ever done inner child healing of some way where you're, working with your inner child, right? Very similar to that idea is
Yeah.
we're having a conversation with that aspect of ourself. The same way that we are multidimensional beings, right? So we have an emotional self to us. We have a mental self to us, our mind. We have our ego. We have our inner child, we have our spiritual self, connection to the divine, to God, to creation. And so we get to even just work with our multidimensional self to say, okay, are we all on the same board with implementing the strategy? Are we all on the same board with this particular thing? Our inner child might be like, heck no, that is not safe. Or our ego might be like, that's exactly what we have to do, right? And now there's a conflict
Yeah.
between our inner child and our ego. It goes like, we've got to go and we're pushing through. And our inner child's like, no, but that's scary and I don't want to do that. And so we've got to have a conversation to say, okay, ego, hold on. Inner
Yeah.
child's not feeling safe. So let's work with our inner child. Or it could be the mental body has a belief around something, or the emotional body doesn't feel safe doing whatever that might be. And so even just that little dialogue is so powerful to understand where we might be disconnected. And then we take it into past lives, into the business entity, and that's just where we really get into stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do in my somatic work is have those conversations with those parts that are
Yeah.
upset about something or whatever that are causing those programs to run in the background that you don't even know
Absolutely.
are running.
Are
So,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. I just never thought about doing it with past life parts. I mean,
Yes.
that makes total sense.
Yeah. And in a past life, like a past life regression, for anybody that has done those, the same kind of idea in like a past life regression, you could do that as well.
Because I've had past lives come up in my somatic personal work
Yep.
that have been interesting, but never actually had to work with the parts. They kind of were telling me other something else, but I
Mm.
had never thought about that. That's interesting. We were
Yeah.
talking earlier, you said something about karmic relationships. So what
Yes.
are karmic relationships?
Yeah, so there might be situations in our past where we have had something happen. So, for example, let's say you have a best friend, and we can all relate this to our current lives. We've had a friend where, in some way, shape, or form, has done something. In our perspective, there was a betrayal of some sort, or there was something that caused some dysfunction, let's just say, in the relationship. That also did not just happen in this lifetime. There's other lifetimes where things of that nature have happened. For example, my love, him and his mom have a karmic relationship. They have done 10 past lives together, different times. So they're not back to back, but there have
Hmm.
been 10 specific lifetimes where they have either been mother, son, as they are in this lifetime, but they have been lovers, where they've been husband and wife, where they have been siblings, brother and sister, and they've repeated the same patterns over and over and over. It
Hmm.
all started from a betrayal that happened many, many years ago in this one lifetime. And they didn't resolve it in the next lifetime. They came together again, didn't resolve it in that lifetime, came back again. And now they're here in this lifetime. I told my love, it is time to heal this. It is time to resolve this karma with your mother if you do not want to continue on experiencing these things with her into the future. And so, he's like, okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Because that's something that has been affecting him forever. And he's like, he's always like, feels like he's like, I can't shake her. And that's exactly what it feels like. I can't shake this relationship. I can't get rid of this relationship because there's something there that is unresolved. There's some thing that in my perspective, when we've looked at with other clients, in their it's how they perceived the situation. So we might, we all watch movies, and we can see sometimes in that movie where there was just this little miscommunication that threw things out a haywire, and now they're like enemies, and their families are, you know, arch rivals for hundreds of years because of this one little communication issue that happened. It can be as simple as that. That is a karmic relationship from the past that you are now involved in this lifetime, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And it's something that maybe you've had an okay relationship in this lifetime, or maybe it's been a very challenging one. In my perspective and in what I've experienced, they're not always the harsh, hard relationships. There's sometimes where a relationship can be very loving. And so let's look at it from that perspective. I said incident. I didn't say necessarily always betrayal, always hardship. Sometimes this person came into our life to support us, to be the number one supporter in our life because of maybe something that did happen. Maybe they left us too early, and they feel as if, maybe they they died in some way, right? Because there was this one relationship where she committed suicide in that lifetime and felt like she left her best friend behind. And so in this lifetime, she feels like she constantly has to give to this
Mm.
person and give and give and give, so much so that that person has now taken advantage of her. And she's like, I don't like, this person is constantly hurting her, but she felt like she had to give and give and give. And it was like, this is a karmic relationship, right? So it's not, doesn't necessarily mean that it's been bad, or that the relationship is a bad one. It's just not it's not equal, if we want to
Yeah.
call it energetically, we want to say it that way.
Yeah. It's all so interesting. I have 1,000 questions, but we're running out of time. But I do want to say, because it's so people can, I'm assuming that when you come back with that person in, 10 lives, that it's to work on these things.
Oh,
Why
absolutely.
does it not happen? Like, why are we not working on it? Why does it take 10 years to finally?
Our own level of awareness. Like my love's mom has no awareness whatsoever. She's just, that's just not what who she is. She's just not that person in this lifetime. He is somebody who is aware, who has woken up, so to speak, to these other ideas, to this idea about karmic relationships, and has sought guidance. I am somebody who can't do it for him. It's hard as somebody who is entwined in a relationship in this lifetime to do readings for people that you're that close connected
Mhm.
to. So I let other healers help him. I'm not the healer for him, for sure, but they have given him the information to tell him, like, this is what you need to do with your mom in this lifetime. And he has that awareness to know, okay, I can do my part. My mom still has to do her part. And if she's not willing to do her part, then she's going to continue to relieve this. But he can fulfill
Okay.
his contract, if we use that term, so to speak. Like, if with my father did his term. Does he have the awareness potentially that maybe his soul also came here to understand? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know, right? I know that I have this awareness that I'm resolving this and I'm clearing this contract from my side in this lifetime. So if we come together, it is not me having to relive this any longer. I've resolved mine. He has to resolve his. And whether that is with me or somebody else, that can also be the case.
Yeah, and I think the frustrating part for me and a lot of people that feel like we're kind of evolving and, um, it's like, can I see the contract so I know I'm supposed to work on? Why does it have to be such a mystery? Like, I want to know like what I need to do so I don't have to do 10 lives to try and, oh, that's all I had to do. Like, it's frustrating for.
It is. It's very frustrating. I agree. I agree. But, talk to an Akashic Records reader. They can 100% help you understand the contract and understand what steps you need to take to resolve that contract.
And are there certain contracts that for certain lives, that like you're supposed to be working on in this lifetime, and maybe there's some other ones that
Absolutely.
you'll deal with next time?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm very much of the as I said earlier, when things come into your awareness, that's a key sign that it's time for you to work on something. So there's been experiences that I've had, even in this past, I'm going to say 10 years, that I've kind of been working in this area on myself and with clients, is where there's things that I did not. I was like, okay, these are the contracts, because the Akashic records are beautiful. So let me give you this idea with this. They'll give you what you need to know now. So I can ask the same question 10 times and I will get the same answer because I have not taken the steps that they've given me yet.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to start where I am. So I'm not going to, I would never go into the records and say, give me all of my contracts for this entire lifetime, because some of those I'm not ready. I'm not ready for. I am not ready to
Mm-hmm.
resolve them, and I am not ready to encounter them. I don't have what I need, the tools that I need to be able to do that, or I might not have met the person yet. So I get the ones okay, what do I need to know right now? What is the contract that this particular situation is based on? Or is there something that's coming up that I need to look out for? I'm not going to ask for all of them, because that would be overwhelming, first off, for me, but two, I'm not ready for them. And so awareness is the key for me for everything. You've got to understand that your awareness of when things come into your awareness, like you have some ideas about some contracts right now, some things that might be potential contracts or you want to learn more about. You're ready to understand what those contracts are, but there might be other ones that are coming later, Melissa, that you might not be ready for, and so it's not time for you to receive those.
And when
And the
you
Akashic
say,
Records is
go
going to
ahead.
do that for you. Yeah.
When you say you're asking,
Mhm.
who are you asking? Is it the
The
universe,
the
God,
guardians.
creator,
Yeah, the
the
guardians
guard?
of the Akashic Records.
And who are they?
So the guardians of the records are, they are, if you want to call it, how do I say this? Energetic frequency. And so they're pulling in. Have you ever heard of Abraham Hicks?
Hmm.
So Esther, who is the channel of Abraham, Abraham is not an entity. Abraham is a group of entities, a group of spirits, a group of frequencies that come together that are speaking through Esther as
Yeah.
Abraham. Same, very similar idea with the Akashic Records. The guardians, the frequency, the entities that guard those records are coming together as a group, as a frequency to receive that
Okay.
information or to give that information. The other thing is that sometimes, like if there's a particular guide or guardian, like let's say I want to call upon Buddha. I want to learn from this particular person. I want their perspective on this thing that I might be working through or moving through, right? If this person is, extremely religious, right? And they've come to me and they want to work with Jesus, I can ask, hey, I'd like the frequency of Jesus to come through to support this person. Or what I often do is I want the frequency that's going to be the best for this person. So I'm not somebody who's like, I want to channel this person, I want to channel that person, because they might not be the person that is best for this particular situation. So
Yeah.
I want the one that's going to be the best, right? If that's
Right.
creation, that's creation. That whatever that might be, universe, whatever that might be, I want to what's going to be in the greatest and highest good for that particular person with the experience that we're working on. That's what I want to come through.
Yeah.
Whether I'm channeling or I'm asking for guidance through the Akashic records and asking for a specific request.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, kind of in closing, what practical steps can anyone listening take to start reconnecting with their inner guidance system?
Slow down and get quiet. It's really the first thing that I'm going to say is slow down and get quiet, because if we oftentimes our intuition, our inner voice is trying to speak to us in symbols, in synchronicities, but we are moving so fast that we miss them. And they'll come back again and they come back again, and sometimes they knock us over the head, but that's it. When we slow down, when we become more, this is why mindfulness practices, being present, becoming aware, like those are so big, because it's the key. If you can slow down and just listen, listen. And when I say listen, I don't mean listen with your ears. I want you to listen with all of your senses. So what you might see, what you might feel, what you might hear, what you might just know, right? We can get into the clairs in that idea of, you might be receiving information through the body. You might be receiving information through something that you sense. You just have a feeling about, right? That claircognizant that might be coming through. So slow down and just open up your awareness, open up your perspective. The other thing I would say is hygiene. Energetic hygiene is key. So whether you're clearing your energy field, your aura, maintaining, some type of cleanliness there. I clear my energy multiple times throughout the day, and whether you're doing that through a visualization, whether you're doing that with crystals, sage. I also like to use essential oils just to keep my space clean, not only my physical space, but also my personal physical space, my own energy. Those would be the
Hmm.
top three things that I would say you can really do to help get back in touch. Because if your system is clogged because there's all these other energies, or there's holes in your aura or your frequency, that there's other information coming through, and it's really hard to understand what is yours and what is other people, especially for empaths, right? They take on everybody's stuff, and you don't have to. You can learn to have some really good energetic boundaries. But if you're not cleaning your energy, you might be getting frustrated, or you might be getting sad or upset about something, and it's not even yours, it's somebody else's. And so you can't understand your own system, what feels right, and be able to listen if you're clogged with all of this other stuff. So I would say slow down, really open up your awareness and see how this information is coming through for you, and then making sure that you're cleaning your energy on a regular basis.
Yeah, I wish we would, as parents, start our kids young and doing this stuff. And, it just seems like we've taught our kids to check out instead of checking in.
Ooh,
They fall down and they're crying, "Oh, wait, you're okay. You're okay." Like, let's just get past this and, look over here and, let's redirect what you're feeling right now. And if we could get kids to, what are you feeling? Where are you feeling it in your body? And just kind of
yeah,
like breathing exercises, getting the central nervous system, learning how to do that as a
yes,
2, 3-year-old. I mean,
powerful.
yeah, yeah, that would be
So
so
powerful.
cool. So
It would
cool.
be.
Yeah,
It would be. But we got to get the adults on board,
I
sadly,
know,
before
right?
we can get the kids on board.
We
Because
do.
kids love it. Like I have
Yeah.
my
And they're
Milo
so
has
open
two.
to it.
Right. He has two nephews. They're now 14 and 12. But when they were, I think 7 and 9, they would come over and I'd put like a meditation on for kids, and they just sit there and they do it with me. Like
Yeah.
they were so open to it and they loved it. The parents were not open to it, but the kids,
Isn't
right? The
that
kids were
funny?
very open to it. And they were like, this
Yeah.
is great. Can we do this
Yeah.
again? Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, man, this was great. I learned a ton. And so, man, just thank you for coming on today and kind of talking about that on a level that I've never heard. So I learned a lot.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Melissa, for this space. Thank you for creating this space. I love what you've done here. I love what you're creating and how you're impacting the world. And so I just want to thank you for the light that you're sharing and helping and supporting others on their journey as well.
So, where can we find you?
Instagram is probably my favorite place to hang out.
Okay.
Instagram, you can find all of my stuff on Instagram at Danie C Muniz, and my website at thepeaceteacher.com.
All right. So anyone wants to get in touch with Danie, I have all the links in the show notes. And again, thanks so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, Karma Crew, to this episode of Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage, featuring Danie Muniz, an inner work alchemist, intuitive astrologer, and Akashic Records practitioner who has helped hundreds of soul-driven women release trauma, ancestral patterns, and self-doubt to step fully into their power and purpose. If you want to connect with Danie and learn more about her sacred CEO framework or how astrology and the Akashic Records can support your healing journey, all her links are in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. If you are interested in being a guest on Mind Your Own Karma, I'm looking for bold and insightful healers, coaches, and conscious leaders who bring fresh, out of the box healing approaches, practical, embodied, and transformational. If that sounds like you, please email me directly at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com to apply. For those looking for somatic healing sessions, transformational support, and more resources, visit my website at somatichealingjourneys.com. Thanks again for listening, Karma Crew, and always remember to take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.